I believe that numbers are way overrated. And I know that might seem like a really extreme statement. And I don't mean that numbers aren't useful and that people shouldn't understand basic mathematics or anything like that. But the ability to quantify something, life doesn't begin and end there. There are a lot of contextual elements that numbers, no matter how hard we try to numerify something, that just won't capture. I had kind of I had it really easy in math classes throughout my high school career. I really kind of took and gravitated to that field. When I went into college, I took a lot of statistics classes as part of my undergraduate degree. And even when I went on to graduate school in public health, that's a very statistics heavy field. So I took biostatistics and things like that and learned about regression analyses and ANOVAs and all these other sorts of things. But what I kind of took from all of that is that statistics are kind of obsessed with p-values, which is statistical significance. So can we say something with some reasonable assurance that what we found applies to a broader population? And I think there is some role here in making decisions based on that evidence, looking at the quantifiable data and trying to make decisions, whether that's policy decisions or decisions within a business or any other aspect of decision making. But it's not the only criteria, and it's certainly not even the most valuable criteria that I think we can come up with. Quantifying something fundamentally is not the only way of knowing something. And I think we've kind of gotten to a point in our heads and in society where if we can't put a number on it, then we don't really know it. But that's not true. I'll give you a crazy, weird, silly example. So the best pizza that I ever had was in a town in Italy near Sorrento. Now, we can try to quantify this, right? So we can say, what was the sauce to cheese ratio? Or maybe there was something about the water, the chemical analysis of the water that they used to make the dough that made this pizza so spectacular. Or we can kind of rate every pizza that I've ever had on a scale of 1 to 1,000,000, or I can do a subjective assessment of what is this pizza, how is the flavor of this pizza on a scale of 1 to 5, and then kind of compare that to other pizzas. But we can also qualify this statement. The best pizza I ever had was in a town near Sorrento, Italy. We can qualify it by asking ourselves, why was it the best? For me, it was the best because it was the pizza that I had on my wedding day. So it meant something. The context gave a meaning to it. And so you now know that the best pizza I ever had wasn't quantifiable in the sense that we can put a number on how good it was, but it was qualifiable that that pizza was good because it had meaning and purpose to me. It was because of the context. Now, the person who introduced me to this way of thinking that, hey, not everything is quantifiable and that we do need to look at kind of contextual elements and take a subjective view sometimes of what we know was a woman named Allison. Now, Allison's a spectacular human being. She studied gender and migration in her undergraduate and graduate degrees. She's worked with UN Women and a couple of other organizations doing really, really amazing work. And she's now was doing her PhD. She kind of showed me how in her field context drives truth, context drives reality, and that it isn't so much about how much of something there is, but understanding the relationship of that something. And I know that's kind of abstract. So when Allison first kind of broached this topic with me, I was in my office at the university that I was working at. We were chatting on Facebook, and we started talking kind of philosophically about truth and what is truth. And I took the position that everything in life can be quantified. And I know this sounds different than what I just said, but that's because I was younger and I didn't know things. And so I just kind of naturally assumed that based on the field of study that I was in, public health, that the truth there is evidence is all about numerical data. It's all about quantifiable data. So we're sitting there chatting and chatting and chatting, and she started challenging me, and she said, I don't believe that that's the case. I believe there's things that can't be quantified. And so I fought back, and we were back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then I stopped and kind of tried to clear my head, and I just listened for a moment, and I tried to understand where she was coming from. And honestly, I didn't get it. I didn't understand what she was trying to explain to me about how I'm approaching knowledge versus how I could approach knowledge in kind of a new and different way. Now, fast forward 5 years, I'm in Oslo, and I'm working in the field of disability rights. And one of the key kind of value systems that drives disability rights is that the only way we can define something like disability is through an individual's lived experience. So it is almost by definition context driven. It's not driven by numbers, it's driven by an individual's experience. And so the truth behind what it is to have a disability is not quantifiable. I know we have things like disability adjusted life years, DALY, DALYs, but in reality, truth for a person with a disability is much more contextually driven. And even around issues of accessibility, how a person with a disability interacts with the environment and with the digital and physical worlds is contextually driven. Because things change overnight, things change minute by minute. And so where one situation or instance may be accessible, sidewalk may be accessible in one instance, in the next, in a minute, in an hour, in a day, that sidewalk might not be accessible any longer. And it's context driven. The key takeaway here is that we've created a lot of systems in our world, in society, that are focused on quantifying things. And that's fine. But truth can also be very subjective. Truth really is subjective from a psychological point of view. And I want to encourage you to seek your truth. What is your contextually driven truth? What is your contextually driven reality? Don't compare yourself to the numbers. Okay? The numbers may say one thing and you may be experiencing something entirely different, and that may create some tension and angst and feelings of, this not cohesion. And if you do that, you'll always feel either lesser or greater than whatever else is out there. Focus on your own truth. Stand in your own truth. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't compare yourself to the statistical average, or whatever that one is, or whatever that is. Everyone's running at their own pace. You run at yours.